Imagine holding this massive, heavy iron hammer in your hands
Right.
while the rest of your city, literally everyone you know, is at this lavish, state-sponsored banquet.
Right.
And every single person there, your neighbors, maybe even your family, they are currently lying to the Roman Empire just to save their own skin.
Yeah, a massive cover-up.
Exactly. And you are completely safe in the shadows. Like, no one is watching you. You could just go home.
But he doesn't.
No, he doesn't. Instead of going home, you turn and walk directly towards the central state temple, totally determined to just smash it to pieces.
I mean, it really is the ultimate act of drawing a line in the sand. When you look at the historical timeline, you rarely find a moment of defiance that is so visceral, so public, and so, well, just guaranteed to end in absolute disaster for the guy holding the hammer.
And untangling that disaster is our mission for you today. You asked us for a custom deep dive into this really fascinating stack of historical and hagiographic sources you sent over.
And it's a great stack.
It is. So we are going to construct an autobiography of this incredibly defiant figure from the 4th century, a man named Saint Aemilianus, or Emilian, depending on how you translate it.
Right, from Durostorum.
Yes. And we were going to dig into ancient political cover-ups, a bizarre execution that just totally defies the laws of physics, and a 21st century archaeological discovery that actually proves a 1,600-year-old legend left real footprints in the dirt.
I love this one because the challenge and really the thrill of this particular set of sources is that we kind of have to play detective right out of the gate.
Oh, totally.
Because the historical record here is incredibly muddy. Separating the factual footprint from ancient, literary fiction, it requires us to really look at how these records were kept in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, the identity mix-up in these sources is just massive.
It's everywhere.
Like, if you try searching for Saint Aemilianus of Durostorum, who, by the way, holds these intense titles like martyr, confessor, and surprisingly, patron of children who cannot talk.
Which is a very specific title.
Very specific. But the files are just all over the place. One Wikipedia source you provided talks about this African martyr named Aemilianus, who was a physician flayed alive by the Vandal king Huneric in, I think, 484 AD?
Yeah, 484.
Right. But then another source calls Aemilianus a bishop of Valence, and still another mentions a Spanish hermit who just lived in a forest. So I have to ask, are we looking at an ancient case of identity theft here, or did someone just mix up the files?
Honestly, it's the mixed up files. That grop file scenario is practically a feature of early church hagiography.
Really? Just pure clerical error?
Well, you have to remember, Aemilianus was a remarkably common Roman name.
Ah, okay. Like a John or a Michael.
Exactly. So, centuries later, when compilers were putting these official lists together, they frequently conflated people who just had similar names or overlapping feast days.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so that African martyr fleed by the Vandals, completely different historical figure, dealing with a completely different empire 100 years later.
And the Spanish hermit.
Someone else entirely.
Okay, wow.
So synthesizing the data you provided, it points us specifically to Emilianus of Durostorum. His defining moment happens earlier, in 362 AD.
Yeah.
And history remembers him because he just refused to hide his reality when his entire local government chose to live a lie.
Which is such a bold move. But to understand why he refused, we really have to look at his origins and the intensely militarized world that he grew up in.
Oh, absolutely.
So Durostorum, which is modern-day Silistra in Bulgaria, it was situated right on the banks of the Danube River in the Roman province of Moesia or Thrace. And this was not, a quiet rural farming village.
Far from it. I mean, Durostorum was a critical Roman military camp.
Right.
The headquarters of the 11th Claudian Legion was stationed right there. So you've got a strategic frontier town bristling with soldiers, heavily fortified, just deeply embedded in the whole machinery of the Roman state.
A real garrison town.
Exactly. Growing up there meant you lived under the constant, highly visible threat of imperial power.
Which honestly makes the contradictions in his socioeconomic background even more baffling, because the sources give us wildly different accounts of his family dynamics.
They really do.
Like, a Polish source claims he was a bishop.
Right.
But then another source from the Orthodox Church in America claims he was a Slav, and specifically a secret Christian slave who belonged to this cruel, fanatical, pagan idolater.
Which is a very dramatic narrative.
Right. But then I read the Greek source from Pemptusia, and it paints a drastically different picture. It says he was a Roman noble, like the son of the city's own prefect, the local governor, a guy named Sebastianus.
Right, a huge contrast.
It's a massive gap. Wait, so a secret slave versus the highly privileged son of the governor. How are we supposed to reconcile that?
So in antiquity, writers often molded a subject's backstory to emphasize a specific theological or moral lesson for their audience.
So they just change the facts to fit the sermon.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
A writer wanting to highlight, the plight of the oppressed might emphasize a slavery narrative, but a writer wanting to highlight the sacrifice of worldly wealth, they would lean into the nobility narrative.
Oh, I see.
But notice the common denominator across all these conflicting accounts. Whether he was an oppressed servant working for a fanatic or a privileged nobleman's son who had everything to lose, Aemilianus was an insider.
Oh, that's a great point.
Right. He was in close proximity to the ruling class. He understood exactly how the Roman system operated and, more importantly, how brutal it could be.
And the brutality of that system was ramping up in a huge way during his formative years. Like, if we set the stage for the years around 361 to 363 AD, the Roman emperor is a man named Julian the Apostate.
Yes, Julian.
And Julian has this very specific, very aggressive agenda to basically roll back the clock on religion, right?
He really does.
Yeah.
Julian offers this fascinating psychological study. I mean, he was the nephew of Constantine the Great, the emperor who famously legalized Christianity.
Right, the guy who changed everything.
Exactly. So Julian was actually raised Christian, but he developed this deep, visceral hatred for the religion. And the mechanism behind that hatred wasn't just philosophical, it was deeply personal and political.
What happened?
Well, when Julian was a child, his Christian cousin, Emperor Constantius II, ordered the massacre of almost Julian's entire family just to secure his own power.
Oh, wow. Okay, that context completely changes the picture.
Doesn't it?
Yeah. You don't just wake up one day and decide to undo your family's entire religious legacy. It sounds like a severe trauma response that was just masked as state policy.
Precisely. So when Julian eventually became emperor, he completely turned his back on his upbringing, which earned him the title the Apostate.
Right.
His great worldly ambition was to violently force the Roman Empire back into pagan worship. He viewed it as the true, untainted heritage of Rome.
So what did that actually look like on the ground?
He issued edicts demanding that temples be rebuilt, sacrifices to the old gods be reinstated, and Christians be systematically removed from any positions of influence.
And he wasn't just issuing memos from a desk either. He actually sent enforcers out to the provinces to make sure the locals were complying.
Right, the boots on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of these deputies, a man named Capitolinus, is sent to Thrace. He arrives in Durostorum fully expecting to have to crack some skulls and force the locals into submission. But he encounters this massive citywide cover-up instead.
Which is fascinating. Yeah. The locals knew exactly what the Roman military machine was capable of, especially in a heavily garrisoned frontier town like Durostorum.
You don't mess with the 11th Legion.
Exactly. Fear drives collective behavior. So to protect themselves, the leadership of Durostorum pulls off this staggering deception.
Like, it's so crazy.
They look the deputy in the eye and assure him that there isn't a single Christian living in their city. They just claim universal devotion to the emperor's gods.
And Capitolinus totally buys it.
Hook, line, and sinker.
He is so relieved that he doesn't have to deal with unrest or messy executions that he throws a lavish, massive public banquet. Like, the whole city elite is partying with the governor, drinking wine, celebrating how perfectly compliant they all are.
Just a huge performance.
Yeah, and this collective lie, this performance, acts as the ultimate catalyst for Aemilianus's breaking point.
Because he's watching his community people who likely practice Christianity in secret, just pretending to be pagans, just to preserve their status in their lives.
Right.
And for him, the hypocrisy just becomes too much to bear.
So while the city is distracted by this state-sponsored party, Aemilianus grabs that hammer we talked about at the very beginning.
The famous hammer.
He sneaks away, walks into the pagan temple, and just unleashes absolute chaos. I mean, the sources detail him smashing the stone idols, overturning these heavy altars, and pouring out all the wine meant for sacrificial libations.
He completely dismantles it.
He completely desecrates the sacred space of the state religion, and then, which is the wildest part to me, he just slips away unnoticed.
Just walks right out.
Yeah, the perfect crime. No one saw him do it.
Well, you have to understand the stakes here. The physical destruction of that temple was a direct attack on the Roman state itself.
Because religion and government were basically the same thing.
In this era, religion and civic duty were totally inseparable. To destroy an idol was to commit outright treason against the empire.
Wow.
So when Capitolinus discovers the wreckage, his mood violently shifts from celebratory relief to absolute unhinged fury.
I mean, Capitolinus just sent a report to his superiors saying the city was perfectly compliant.
Right, and now he looks like an idiot.
He looks incredibly foolish. And his soldiers are panicking. They know if they don't find the culprit fast, they are going to face the governor's wrath themselves.
And corrupt authorities needing a quick fix usually grab a scapegoat.
Exactly. So the soldiers find this random innocent peasant walking back from the fields. They drag him into the courtyard and just start viciously beating him to force a fake confession.
And watching this innocent man being tortured, that is the definitive moment of transformation for Aemilianus.
It's his point of no return.
It forces a profound ethical line in the sand.
I really try to put myself in his shoes here for a second, for you listening. He got away with it. Like, if he just keeps his mouth shut, he lives.
He's perfectly safe.
It makes me think of a modern corporate whistleblower. You leak the documents, you cover your tracks, you're totally safe. But then you watch the company frame some low-level IT guy for your leak, and the guilt just becomes a physical weight.
You can't live with it.
Right. You can't let someone else be destroyed for your actions. So Aemilianus steps out of the crowd, walks right up to the soldiers, and surrenders. He claims full responsibility.
Which propels him directly into this brutal interrogation with Governor Capitolinus. And the texts describe the governor with, quote, bloodshot eyes.
Oh, that's such a vivid detail.
Demanding to know who this young man is and who ordered him to commit this treason.
And Aemilianus' response is amazing.
It really is. The dialogue here is a masterclass in ancient defiance. Aemilianus responds that he is, simultaneously, a free man and a servant.
Okay, I really want to pause on that quote because it feels so loaded with subtext. What is the actual mechanism of that argument he's making?
He is brilliantly exploiting the Roman social hierarchy.
Oh, so?
In Roman society, libertas, or freedom, was the ultimate social currency. Slaves are at the very bottom, completely bound to the will of their masters.
Right.
So Aemilianus explains that he is a servant of God, entirely submitted to a higher divine authority. But because of that submission, he argues that he is entirely free from the idols and, crucially, free from the fear of the Roman state.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he looks at the governor and points out that Capitolinus is worshiping lifeless, unreasoning stone. He essentially tells the most powerful man in the room, "You are a slave to a piece of rock, and I am the true free man here."
I can imagine how well a philosophy lesson went over with a humiliated governor who has an army standing behind him.
Not well at all.
Not well. So Capitolinus orders Aemilianus to be stripped, thrown to the ground, and brutally scourged, specifically whipped across his chest.
Which is a very severe punishment.
Right, and if we lean into the narrative that Aemilianus was the son of the city's prefect, this punishment is legally shocking, isn't it?
Extremely. Because Roman citizens, and particularly those of noble birth, were legally exempt from certain types of degrading physical punishment like scourging without a formal trial in Rome.
So Capitolinus is just breaking the law.
He's bypassing it.
Yeah.
By ignoring these legal protections, Capitolinus is signaling that Aemilianus's crime, humiliating the governor and attacking the state religion, basically erased his social privileges.
He's making an example out of him.
Exactly. And Capitolinus even goes so far as to slap Aemilianus's father with a massive fine in gold just for raising him.
That is so petty. But the ultimate example, of course, is execution. And this brings us to the most unbelievable part of the sources. It's an outstanding anomaly that I really need you to explain for us.
Okay, let's hear it.
So Capitolinus orders Aemilianus to be burned alive. It's July 18th, 362 AD. They lead him outside the city to the banks of the Danube River. They build a massive pyre and throw him into the raging fire. But according to the Pempatusia text, the fire refuses to touch him. Like, the flames actually lash outward, completely ignoring Aemilianus, and they incinerate the pagan executioners on the spot.
The miraculous fire.
Yeah. And I have to push back here. Am I supposed to take this literal magic fire as historical fact? Because that sounds like pure mythology, not history.
And your skepticism is exactly how a modern historian approaches these texts. To a 21st century reader, it sounds like magic.
Right, a fantasy novel.
But to a 4th century audience, this was a highly recognizable literary code. In hagiography, there is this recurring mechanism we call elemental obedience.
Elemental obedience, meaning like nature itself takes a side.
Yes, exactly. The concept is that the elements fire, water, earth, they recognize the holiness of the martyr and refuse to participate in their destruction.
Oh, well, that's fascinating.
Nature obeys the divine rather than the corrupt state executioner. It is a direct literary parallel to the biblical story in the book of Daniel, where the 3 youths are thrown into the Babylonian furnace and remain completely untouched by the flames.
Ah, so it's a callback.
It is. The ancient authors included this imagery to signal to their readers that Aemilianus was operating under direct divine protection.
So, for you listening, this means we shouldn't get hung up on whether the fire actually chased the guards away like a heat-seeking missile.
Right. Don't get lost in the physics of it.
The psychological truth the authors are communicating is that the Roman state's ultimate weapon of terror, death by fire, was completely powerless to break his spirit.
Precisely. The state could destroy his physical form, but it could not conquer his will.
That is so powerful, and it really sets up the moment of his actual death, the transitus, because he is standing amidst the dying embers of this massive pyre. The texts say he is unharmed by the fire, but he knows his time is up, and the scene is just incredibly peaceful.
It's very serene.
Yeah, he doesn't die screaming or begging. He just stands in the ashes, makes the sign of the cross, sings praises out loud, commends his soul, and just quietly passes away.
It's the ultimate mic drop, really.
It is. He leaves entirely on his own terms.
It is a profound conclusion to his physical life. But the immediate aftermath and his posthumous legacy take this narrative into some truly unexpected territory.
Yeah, this is where my skepticism flared up again when I was reading the sources. Because after embarrassing the governor like that, you'd assume Aemilianus's body would be thrown in the river or left for the scavengers, right? Just to complete the humiliation.
That would be a standard Roman practice for a traitor, yes.
Right. But the texts reveal this shocking twist. Governor Capitolinus, the very man who ordered the execution, his own wife, was apparently a secret Christian.
Which is quite the plot twist.
Yeah, and she uses her influence to secure the body and gives it to the local Christians for an honorable burial. Now, hold on a second. This feels way too scripted. The villain's wife just happens to be a secret Christian who swoops in to save the day. I mean, that sounds like a convenient plot device added centuries later to give the story a happy ending.
I completely understand why it feels like a cinematic trope. But structurally, it is highly plausible within Roman society. We have to look at the mechanisms of Roman gender dynamics. Roman men completely controlled the public sphere, so the military, the courts, and the official state religion.
Right.
But Roman women wielded significant authority over the domestic sphere, the household. And early Christianity, particularly during periods of persecution, functioned largely as a domestic underground religion.
Oh, because they met in house churches.
Exactly. It spread rapidly among aristocratic women, precisely because the household offered a layer of protection and privacy from the state.
Wow, okay.
So a governor aggressively enforcing paganism in public,
Right.
while his wife quietly harbors Christian sympathies in their private villa. That is a dynamic we see repeated across the empire.
That makes a lot of sense. So she leverages her private domestic authority to quietly manage the aftermath of her husband's public brutality.
Exactly.
And the texts are very specific about what happens next. They say Aemilianus was buried in a place called Gizadina, or Gabadina, located about 3 miles from the city of Durostorum.
Right. And for centuries, academics looked at this entire narrative. The hammer, the magical fire, the secret Christian wife, and assumed the burial location was just another piece of inspiring fiction.
Just a made-up place.
Yeah, it was viewed as theological poetry rather than forensic history.
But if you are listening to this and wondering if any of this actually happened, we hit a massive aha moment.
Oh, this is the best part.
It really is. We zoom forward to the 21st century. We looked at the research of a modern archaeologist named Georgi Atanasov, and his findings completely validate the ancient texts.
It is a breathtaking archaeological vindication. While excavating the ancient necropolis of Durostorum, archaeologists actually uncovered a 4th century brick martyrium.
And a martyrium is a
specialized shrine built specifically to house the relics of a martyr.
Oh, okay, and it wasn't just a random building, right? They found a 4th century inscription carved into stone there, and it explicitly named the local settlement, Gavadina.
Yes.
The exact name from the supposedly mythical texts.
It's incredible. And the geography is what makes the discovery undeniable. We can finally map the ancient hagiography directly onto the physical terrain.
How exact are the measurements?
Unnervingly exact. The 4th century texts state he was buried 3 miles or 3 stadia, depending on the translation from the city.
Okay.
Atanasov's archaeological site at Gavadina is exactly 4,500 meters from the banks of the Danube River, which perfectly matches the execution site.
Wow.
Furthermore, it is exactly 450 meters from the ancient legion headquarters, which perfectly matches the site of his interrogation.
I mean, the measurements line up, the names line up, the geography lines up. For anyone looking at their own stacks of historical sources, this proves that beneath all those layers of theological symbolism and literary codes, there is often a hard physical kernel of historical truth.
Absolutely.
A real man died a real death, and real people built a shrine to remember him exactly where the texts claim they did.
And his posthumous legacy expanded far beyond that physical shrine. His relics were eventually transported to Constantinople, the heart of the Byzantine Empire.
A massive honor.
Huge honor. Today, he holds legacy status across both the Orthodox and Catholic worlds. His feast day is officially recognized on July 18th, the anniversary of his death, and he remains a highly venerated patron saint of Dacia and modern-day Romania.
That's amazing.
His memory survives the collapse of the Roman Empire and centuries of academic skepticism.
So what does this all mean for you as you process this deep dive? We live in a modern world where it is incredibly easy to just dismiss ancient records as fairy tales or manipulative propaganda.
It really is.
But sometimes, a hammer-wielding rebel who just couldn't stand the hypocrisy of his own government and a governor's wife keeping a dangerous secret, they leave real physical footprints that just wait 1,600 years to be dug up.
And, knowledge is most valuable when we apply its mechanisms to our own lives.
Absolutely.
The preservation and physical validation of Aemilianus' story reminds us that individual defiance against corrupt systems leaves a lasting, measurable mark on human history.
I couldn't agree more. And I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you go about your day. Aemilianus took a hammer and destroyed those statues because he believed that human beings fundamentally degrade their own humanity when they worship lifeless things, objects they made with their own hands, prioritizing a manufactured system over human life and truth. If Saint Aemilianus walked into our modern world today, what lifeless things do you think he would take a hammer to?
Now that is a question that demands some serious reflection.
It really does. Thank you for trusting us with this incredible stack of sources. Until next time.